Good evening. Thank you for coming, everyone. It's wonderful to see such a crowd here. This is the third concert in the Mary Quick Jones concert series. I don't want to always repeat myself over and over of all the things about this concert series, but just very briefly, this concert series is a monthly concert series that goes on. It's free for anyone always to attend. We take voluntary donations. This time, donations will be collected for United Graduate Workers of UNM. You can read a little bit about, I wrote into your program. I was a member of this union when I was a graduate worker at UNM, and I have to say that my time in this union was very fulfilling for me. It was really a large part of what kept me continuing at UNM. The pandemic disrupted many aspects of things, and especially for education at our universities at the highest level, it really took a nosedive in terms of the quality of the classes and the level of instruction that we were getting. And this, among many other things, frustrated me very much. But I found inspiration and hope in the work that this union does. And so it really kept me going. I don't know that I would have gotten through graduate school were it not for the support that my friends in this union provided to me. So this is the least that I can do for them to give a little bit back. When I first joined the union, it was in January of 2021. It had been in formation long before this. The card check count had taken place the prior year in 2020, and there was more than a year of organizing prior to that. So I came in about a year and a half into the formation of this union, and when I joined, there was a fight going on in the New Mexico Labor Board because the University of New Mexico was trying to say that we didn't have the right to unionize because we weren't public workers, and there was an ongoing legal thing going in the Labor Board. It took about a year to resolve that in the Labor Board, but when it finally did, it was determined, yes, they are in fact public workers, and yes, they do have a right to unionize. So then we moved forward with negotiation. I was very fortunate to be able to represent my peers in the College of Fine Arts as the bargaining representative, and so I was involved in the negotiations for this first contract, and then after that I graduated, so it's been passed on now to other people. Recently they did a wage renegotiation, so this contract was the full contract language, spans from 2022 to 2024, but there are annual wage renegotiations. So it will last one more year, and then a new team will come in and negotiate a new contract with the university. So if you would like to donate, you can scan the QR code in the program or in the basket at the back. For those who are in the live stream, there is a link that will take you. All of the donations are processed by Rio Rancho Presbyterian Church, so that's where the donation link will take you. And you can put into the general operating fund and label it Mary Quick Jones or MQJ. All right. So I want to get to the music. I don't want to keep talking. But let me get my notes here. So the first composer on the program, Clara Schumann. So I want to do a little game here, a little experiment. So if you are familiar with Clara Schumann, who she is, raise your hand. Okay. So we've got definitely less than half of the audience here. Yeah. So that does not surprise me at all. How about Robert Schumann? Raise your hand if you know Robert Schumann. Some more, right? So this is very unfortunate. Clara Schumann is easily the most important female composer of the Romantic period by far. I don't know that any other even comes close to the length of her career, the amount and depth of music that she composed. She really is one of the most important figures of the 19th century. Let me just give you a little bit about her. She was born in Leipzig. And like many of the most famous composers and performers from this era, she was from an early age identified as a great artist. She was giving concerts by the age of 4. She was touring at the age of 11. So she was giving concerts in Paris, in Vienna, all over Europe, and well received at the age of 11. Her concert career, beginning from age 11, lasted 61 years. Hardly any break in between. She was always constantly traveling, performing somewhere, giving master classes, what have you. She met Robert in 1835, And he was obsessed with her. He was very stricken with her. He wrote a large cycle of songs just talking about how much he loved her and cared for her. So he proposed to her when she turned 18 in 1837. Her father was very opposed to this match. The Wieck family was sort of upper class, and Robert Schumann was a composer, which, how could you get more lowly than this? So he was very opposed to it, and it was kind of a long process, but it really was a love match for both of them, which you find not so rare even today, but especially not in the 19th century. And so they were married in 1840. Later on in her career, in 1878, she taught piano at the conservatory in Frankfurt, and she taught there for 20 years until she passed. Just a little interesting note about her: early in her career, when she was performing in Weimar, she played for the famous poet Goethe, who's a very significant figure in German cultural life. And he was very taken with her, presented her with an award to tell her how much he appreciated her great artistic ability. So the pieces that I'll be playing from Ms. Schumann today will be one of her early works, 4 fleeting pieces. These are all short lyric pieces, and I think the title really well describes them. Fleeting. They have their time, they stay, and then it's gone. So. So the next composer on the program, Edvard Grieg, Norwegian composer, and the pieces that I will be playing come from what are called lyric pieces. He wrote a large number of these, more than 66, and they were all, so Grieg wrote some different kinds of music. He wrote a lot of music that was heavily influenced by the folk music in Norway, and some of this music was really kind of what brought him to the forefront in Europe. It was considered to have a different sound that was unusual, and there was an audience for that particular sound. They really liked hearing something different, I suppose. And then he also had other works that he composed that were more in the sort of German-influenced school of composition that you hear more in mainland Europe from other composers contemporaries like Mendelssohn and Robert Schumann, Brahms, composers such as this. But these lyric pieces are all influenced by the Norway folk music. And so if you look some of the titles, they have sort of a series they go through, Once Upon a Time, Summer Evening. They're all meant to evoke a certain atmosphere. Yes, that's a good word for it, a space that you inhabit. And much of Nordic music is like that. If anyone knows the composer Jean-Philippe Sibelius, his orchestra works are highly known for this, of not really being developmental in the way that a Beethoven symphony would carry forward to almost a predetermined conclusion. This other music is more ethereal. It hangs out in space and then it changes suddenly and then it's back, and it is very not so linear in its structure. Yes. Just some titles I want to note. The Little Troll. So the word that Grieg uses is kobold, and in Norwegian mythology, this is like a mischievous figure. If anyone has read Midsummer Night's Dream, like Puck, this is sort of the space that the character inhabits. Number 5, the Halling. So a Halling is a traditional Nordic folk dance, and it goes back many hundreds of years. This is a dance that is performed, it's sort of a coming of age thing for young men. It's usually up-tempo, speed, and it's meant to be kind of show off a feat of athleticism for the men in the village. And it has a moment in it, every Halling dance has this, called the Hallingkast, where there's a young woman who holds a post with a hat on the end of it, and she holds it way up in the air, and the men dancing the Halling must come, and they do kind of a backflip and try to kick the hat off the post. And so if you listen, I think you'll hear the Hallingkast. There's a moment in the piece that really stands out as this is the time for the Hallingkast. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play these pieces now. Something I didn't mention before, there are many sets of pieces on this program tonight. So for all of these, we'll just wait to the end, and I will stand up after for applause. Thank you. So next on the program is a composer I'm sure nobody has heard of, Emile Beyer. I found great difficulty in trying to find information about this composer. No recordings I could find anywhere. I looked on YouTube. I still have access to UNM's library, so I checked the music library there. No recordings there. So this is a hardly ever performed composer, maybe not at all. I can give you a little bit of information about this composer. So he was born in Leipzig, Germany, and he studied music theory with George Winkler. This was a pupil of Max Reger. Max Reger is a very famous theory teacher from Germany, had a large impact on the whole field of study of music theory. And then he took piano with the maestro Telemaque Lambrino, who traces his student lineage back to Franz Liszt. In 1937, he left Germany, he emigrated to the US, and he settled with his wife Ruth Kessler in Denison, or in Granville, Ohio, at Denison University. He founded a school there in Ohio, and also the Beyer Musical Society, which is still around today. So I'm going to play these 5 lyric pieces. They're not connected in any way besides being in the set together. Most of them are preludes. He has one piece, number 4, Vision, and then an etude in D flat at the end. right. The next composer on the program, another unknown one, Laura Netzel. Very interesting composer, I have to say. She was born in Finland, but they moved to Sweden when she was 1 year old, so she spent her whole life in Sweden, in Stockholm. Similar to Clara Schumann, she was a wunderkind, a young age prodigy, beginning playing concerts in an elementary school age, basically. She did some traveling around in Germany. She studied with famous pianist Charles Marie Widor in France. And one of the most interesting little facts I found about her, she was very involved in social activism and in sort of raising the condition of the working class in Stockholm. And she began a concert series in Stockholm that was basically very low-priced tickets that even the lowest working class people in Stockholm were able to afford. And she ran this concert series weekly for 12 years, from 1892 to 1904, and as far as I can tell, never missed a week. Now, there's no way that she was at all of these concerts because she traveled and performed around Europe, and it took many days or even weeks to travel. So there's no way that she was herself there for all of these concerts, but she managed to find people to substitute in while she was gone and kept the series running even in her absence for an absolutely crazy amount of time. So it was a little bit of an inspiration here for my own concert series. I thought, well, if she can do it weekly for 12 years, I can do it monthly for 1 year. So the pieces I'll be playing are two of her concert etudes. The first one, La Fileuse, this means the spinner. I think you'll hear in the character of the piece how this is enacted. This piece is very beautiful. I really enjoy it. One of its features, it has what we call sextuplets, so 16th notes, 6 notes per beat in the right hand, and then the melody is in the left hand. And this really reminds me a lot of another very famous etude, Chopin's Winter Winds etude, which is similarly sextuplets in the right hand with a melody in the left hand. Now the difference is, I would say, is Winter Winds is in a minor key etude, and it has a much more sort of furious tone to it. This piece you'll see is very delicate and beautiful, but they're kind of sisters in this way that the La Fileuse is sort of the major version of the Winter Winds in minor. So I had wished to program the Winter Winds to go along with this piece just to show sort of the contrast, but I have to tell you, I've been working on it. It is not ready yet. I need to keep practicing. So you'll get some other Chopin later on, but the Winter Winds will have to wait until it's at a higher level for me. The other piece, her second etude, is called Inquietude. This means worry. So we have the spinner and worry. Okay, so the final composer on the program I think needs no introduction, but I want to talk a little bit about this piece, Polonaise Fantasy. So this is a mixing of two genres, the Polonaise and the Fantasy. So the Polonaise is a Polish dance. Chopin was known for a number of sort of Polish national pieces, the Polonaises and the Mazurkas kind of first among them. So the Polonaise, this is a Polish dance. Most characteristic is certain rhythm. You'll hear if you listen for it many times, but it's sort of a da-da-da, da-da, da-da-da, da-da, da-da, da-da. Yeah. And then fantasy. This is very much a different, totally different genre here. A fantasy is an open, free-form piece of music. It doesn't have set structure to it in the same way a dance would, for example. And the most common thing you see with fantasies is a variety of themes, so it won't just be sort of one idea, it will be one thing, and then it changes into something totally different. And then that gives way to something else totally different. And it's sort of an ongoing series of loosely connected ideas that sort of all come together. It's a very open, free format, much in contrast to the Polonaise, which is a highly structured form. So Chopin's really playing around a lot with the idea of musical form in this piece. It was written during a period that was extremely prolific for Chopin. He spent some time in France near a village called Nohant, and he stayed there at basically a friend's cabin on the lake, and he lived there for about 2 years, 2.5 years or so, and many of his most important works were written during this time. So it was a very liberating environment for him. He found a lot of refuge from sort of the stresses of his daily life and was able to really sit down and do a lot of serious artistic work during this time. So from this period of 1846 to 1848, a huge number of pieces he composed, and this is one of them, the Polonaise Fantasy. This piece is an absolute titan among the piano literature. It is, for me, I would say, one of, if not maybe just the most difficult piece I've ever studied, not just in terms of the notes and how to play them, but the structure and the theme and how to transform it from a bunch of notes into a piece of music. It's very much a work in progress. So it's something that will come back. This is the kind of piece that you study for years and years and still find more out of it. So I hope you enjoy what I have for you tonight. Well, thank you again to all of you so much for coming. If you'd like to leave a donation, there's a basket back there where you can scan the QR code in your program. Thank you. Let me make a quick note about the next concert. My friend and colleague Pablo Betancourt will be playing. He is a wonderful pianist. I've studied before with him at UNM, and then you can read about him and his bio here. But we will be playing some four-hand music together. We'll play the Camille Saint-Saëns' The Carnival of Animals. And then he'll be giving you some solo piano music that comes from his artist diploma recital. So we'll do a little bit of four-hand music, and then I'll pass it off to him for some solo piano. So, yeah. All right.
I have a niece, incidentally, who happened to have been a prodigy, if you will, and she did well.
Yeah.
And of course, there are many males who also, at that time, also at very early ages, also become professionals, if you will. At what age did you first realize that the piano, you had the feel for the piano?
I would say much later. I started taking lessons when I was 7, but I didn't decide I was going to study piano as a career until 16.
Really?
Something like this. Yeah, it was in
And that's
it was
pretty
in,
amazing.
in high school that I made that decision. I mean, I had been taking lessons, but I wasn't studying it like I was planning for it to be my career. It was a after school activity, right? And then about junior year of high school was when I decided, I actually am enjoying this and I want to take it a little bit more seriously. So, yeah.
You know, as you were going there, what I was really thinking about is the number of hours that you have been in a piano, okay? The number of hours had to be
Lose count.
We don't think about that.
Yeah, that.
The other part of it is, do your hands ever get just plain tired?
Oh yes.
Okay, good.
So does his back.
Yeah.
Because it didn't really show that, you started, and this is a piano at one time, right here. Okay, and it was continuous, you moved to it. Okay. I'm just amazed that you
He's got a lot younger
I do.
hands
I'll have to
than
go
you do.
relax this hand. It does feel a little bit on the tense side. But
That's amazing. Anyway, this is good stuff. This is good stuff.
thank you. Thank you for coming.
Very good.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Look forward to the four hands.
Oh yeah, it's going to be really, really good. People will like it.
All right, we got a couple of other helpers maybe?
The table back?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's already on over, so we can
Right. It'll be
just need about 3 of us to sign this whole
okay. Yeah. Let me see. I can with my sister.
Always an interesting idea. Heavier than it looks.
She's my second fiddle too, even her husband, Robert Chick. That's interesting, I did not know that.
Hey, likewise.
Yes, Jennifer, Jennifer. Just went with the, deal with. Can't do anything with it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Very young, you know. He tortured me. He said he would get the car.
Here, Betsy, why don't you pull that out?
Yeah, sure, I can.
It's easier for me to say. Yeah.
Write to Eric Carl. Want you to write a letter?
Got it? Other side?
Other side.
I would.
Yeah, so now we need to get the wheels. So we will lift it and then take this one.
Flip up. All right.
So the easiest thing, you get the wheel, is kind of pull it up and then you have the wheel.
Storage that we don't get too much information about. So I had from Rio County Library. They have magazines.
That one still doesn't look, they don't look good.
Oh, this one.
There you go. Hope your finger wasn't under there, Nathan. Oh, yeah.
No squash. I was eavesdropping on her, saying something about Libby and making sure that it's Yeah, they said my car was needed renewal.
Yes, every number I was like, because I think it was in the middle of COVID. And I was like, I called them and I said, what is this? Yeah, to the phone with you, don't worry, I love it. Oh,
I'm
really?
excited.
That's
because
appropriate. Oh, yeah.
I just didn't realize this would do that.
Yeah.
Books from the library.
Of course, I have to tell you, since I used to be in Cincinnati, I use my Cincinnati library card because they have a much broader.
A bigger, well, my niece, she's been in DC and Virginia, and so, yeah, she has these big libraries, she's got two of them
Yeah.
that she pulls out of, so.
Yeah,
New
they
York
don't.
City, you need,
Been there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
across the bridge in Kentucky. Excuse me.
But yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll always send it to me. Okay.
Yeah, no, that stuff went really cool. Did Riley this put away?
It's fine now.
I got it back in your head. Very thoughtful.
Here's the best part of the picture. Well, I gotta talk to her.
Pardon?
I'm gonna have to talk to her.